Word is that money is up from $5,000. It's now $9,000.
You know, just because you're in a Rolodex, does that mean you went to Epstein's Island? No.
Florida is a very consequential state within the United States. And if weather modification is banned here, that sets a precedent to deprive farmers in even more arid regions of the country.
Things are once again heating up in Washington, and in this video, I'm going to tell you how these insane stories are connected and what big developments are coming soon. And I'm going to start things off by telling you what's happening with those DOGE stimulus checks. A couple of days ago, Elon Musk shared this video on X.
This is a revolution, people. DOGE and the DOGE checks, the DOGE rebate checks, right? The money they've saved, we're going to get, the taxpayers are getting a kickback from it. Word is that money is up from $5,000. It's now $9,000 per taxpayer that we are going to see returned to us. These are great days, people. These are great days. And of course, it's nowhere in the media, right? Because none of the best information is, because the media is a bunch of lying sacks.
As you just heard, the guy is not only saying we're getting those checks, but is also claiming that the amount has been raised to $9,000. Now, Elon in his post did not deny this claim, but he also didn't answer people who wanted to know if this was really true. But as you can see, some big things are likely happening behind the scenes, even though the liberal newspapers keep telling us the stimulus plan has been killed by the tariffs. However, I think you guys need to see this video, which explains why we might be getting a much smaller check than what's being proposed.
We got breaking news. It was just announced exactly who will get the $5,000 DOGE dividend checks. Obviously nothing's set in stone, but James Fishback, who came up with this idea, says only tax-paying households will receive this dividend check. But here's why that doesn't even matter. This year, the IRS is expecting 140 million people file their taxes. If each of those individuals gets $5,000, the government's going to have to shell up $750 to $770 billion. And obviously, we know that these checks are coming from what has been saved by DOGE, right? Well, if DOGE is sending out 20% of its savings and they have to save this amount for every American to get $5,000, that means they need to save $3.845 trillion in order for individuals to get $5,000 checks. Which, just for reference, right now, the U.S. spends a total of $6.75 trillion per year. So we need to save at least half of our budget, which in my opinion, I don't think is possible, but maybe Elon Musk has something up his sleeve.
And of course, people still keep screaming that the checks will be inflationary, even though the people at the White House clearly don't think so.
Oh, absolutely not, because imagine if we don't spend government money and we give it back to people, then if they spend it all, then you're even. But they're probably going to save a lot of it, in which case you're reducing inflation. Okay, so and also, when the government spends a lot, that's what creates inflation. We learned that from Joe Biden. And so if we reduce government spending, then that's, reduces inflation. And if you give people money, then they're going to save a bunch of it. And when they save it, then that also reduces demand and reduces inflation.
Okay, so you're not worried about it. And
No,
Mr.
no.
Wolt?
But here's where I want to show you what Jerome Powell has said about these checks.
Last month, the idea of a DOGE dividend was proposed, which would send $5,000 checks to every taxpayer from DOGE savings. President Trump and Elon Musk have supported this. There's reports there could be a bill introduced on Capitol Hill. What impact might that have on household savings and spending in terms of your growth and outlook for inflation?
You know, it's not appropriate for me to speculate on political ideas or fiscal policy for that matter. So I'm gonna pass on that one. Thank you.
And this is the same guy who defended the Biden stimulus checks by saying they won't cause inflation.
On inflation, there perhaps once was a strong connection between budget deficits and inflation. There really hasn't been lately. That doesn't mean it won't return. But my expectation will be that inflation will probably be a bit volatile over the next year or so, due in a significant amount to particular things to do with the pandemic.
So the fact that he's refusing to comment on this issue now tells me he might not be on board with it, and I'm sure you already know how much influence the Fed has on the decisions made by Congress. So I'm still hopeful about those checks, but I'm not sure we'll get $5,000. And that's sad because the people who deserve this money are not getting it while the crooks behind the scenes have been stealing like there's no tomorrow.
A clear case of fraud was with the Small Business Administration, where they were handing out loans, $330 million worth of loans to people under the age of 11. I think the youngest, Kelly, was a 9-month-old who got a $100,000 loan. That's a very precocious baby we're talking about here.
Now, these people absolutely need to be behind bars, and Pam Bondi has promised to do so.
We are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse. A lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in our government, and we will prosecute you. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you.
She seems confident about going after these criminals, but I wish she was half as confident about prosecuting Epstein's clients and partners. But apparently, we still have to wait until we can get our hands on even the documents related to that case.
That are and are not verified. Just because you're in a Rolodex, does that mean you went to Epstein's Island? No. We're going to look at things methodically and take them very seriously. And unfortunately, that takes time.
So basically, she's saying that we might be getting redacted documents, even if we ever get them. So you can understand why people made comments like this one. Personally, I will never trust the feds. Sorry, it's like trusting a spouse that cheats. But if the feds even want to ask people to trust them with a straight face, Ruby Ridge, Waco, Oklahoma City, and a few other of their atrocities must be dealt with. Anyone taking part in them must be prosecuted. Until then, it all rings hollow. He's onto something. How can we trust these agencies when they have such a shady history of covering their own tracks?
In our investigation, we knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
Yes.
Based on the notes of this October 2020 meeting, the FBI and IRS, when did they know the laptop was real?
It was many months before October 2020. We were confirming certain aspects of it that it was real and legitimate as far back as late 2019.
So, if you ask me, I will only trust the authenticity of those papers if our president issues the order to release them unredacted. He already did that with the JFK files, and many people were surprised by the lack of censoring in those documents. So, I just wish Donald Trump could do the same for the Epstein files as well. Now, moving on, another big story I want to talk about involves RFK Jr., because it seems like he's ready to slam the pharmaceutical companies and hit them where it hurts. According to the reports, he's banning all pharmaceutical ads from TV, and that's a huge thing. I know it's normal for us to see ads like this one.
Free fall.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer, with George Stephanopoulos, is brought to you by Pfizer.
But in most of Europe, you can't legally do this as far as any prescription drug is concerned. And yet, for some reason, these drug dealers are allowed to advertise their products to the American people like we're some kind of guinea pigs. Now, RFK Jr. has talked about this issue before, and he's even made promises to remove these ads in the past.
And one of the things I'm going to advise Donald Trump to do in order to correct the chronic disease epidemic is to ban pharmaceutical advertising on TV.
So I'm once again tipping my hat to him because it seems like he's the most effective member of Donald Trump's team, and his actions are directly helping the people of this country. And talking about helping the country, the Florida Weather Modification Bill has moved to the Senate for a final vote. Now, during the initial hearing, people tried to explain why banning geoengineering is important.
Silver iodide, silver dioxide, aluminum barium, strontium, cadmium, polymers, microplastics, and black coal. These are released as nanoparticles that are easily inhaled. I acknowledge we don't understand the full health ramifications of this activity, although I would submit respectfully, it cannot be good. But I would also acknowledge that this is an attempt to alter the environment. There's no question about it. I've sent several pictures to Senator Garcia's aide. I've sent photographs to images to Representative Steele. Representative Steele showed me extensive images that he's observed from his farmland, his acreage in Pasco County. There is no question these are not jet aircraft flying commercial flights. These are airplanes flying and injecting aerosols into the sky in an attempt to, as Mr. Gates referred to it, Bill Gates, as I recall, dim the sun.
However, what I found really interesting is that the CEO of a very popular geoengineering company called Rainmaker Technologies showed up to oppose the bill. And here's what he said.
My name is Augustus DeRico. I'm the CEO and founder of Rainmaker. We're a cloud seeding company that is enhancing precipitation via advanced radar and also drones for the sake of supplementing water supplies for farms, cities, reservoirs, and wildlife throughout the United States. Our ultimate vision is to end water scarcity, and we've begun that mission already. I'm testifying to not oppose the spirit of this bill, which I think is well-founded, but the current configuration of the bill that I think would impede this mission for ending water scarcity, and also for bringing the best-in-class technology to Florida and the rest of the United States. No ifs, ands, or buts. Mar-a-Lago exists here. Florida is a very consequential state within the United States, and if weather modification is banned here, that sets a precedent to deprive farmers in even more arid regions of the country from getting access to water from cloud seeding. And so if only for the sake of other Americans, for other farming interests, for other cities like Salt Lake, which is currently radically under budget for their water supply, and people are getting respiratory issues from the dust kicked up from the evaporation, cloud seeding could mitigate that. If this precedent is set here, it could affect other Americans. And not only could it affect us immediately within the United States, but long-term it could affect us geopolitically, because China has a $300 million annual budget for weather modification research and operations.
While this guy is defending the bill, the state of Florida is still engulfed in fires that have already burned down more than 26,000 acres.
The Florida Forest Service made the announcement today. Multiple lightning strikes Wednesday ignited the fires, which burned more than 26,000 acres. The fire sent smoke and ash into southern Palm Beach County neighborhood.
And I have a question for this CEO. We already know that cloud seeding only increases the chance of rain by like 10 to 15% in a humid state like Florida. So how can he justify putting so many chemicals in our atmosphere just for such a small increase in the chance of rainfall? But I think we all know it has nothing to do with rainfall. Something is going on in our skies, and the fact that this guy showed up to oppose the bill tells me that Florida lawmakers are on the right track. And with that, I'd like to end today's video. I really want to know what you guys think should happen with all the money DOGE is saving. Should they just give us tax breaks, or should they send us checks ASAP so we can put that money to good use? Your comments always give me new perspectives, so don't forget to share your thoughts with everyone in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.